Yo, we got flat open in the market. You guys keep an eye on this SRNE. If it starts to cook right now, you may have to preempt it on the red to green. Friends for... Yeah, you can see this thing is already pushing. Flat open in the market. We are getting a little bit extended. That's just part of the game. We probably could use a pullback. It doesn't mean we'll necessarily get one. I would expect some more of this kind of herky-jerky action, though, in the general market indexes, where it's like, see, like it looks like you're going to ORB and then you dump, but then you just dump and you fill the gap and then you come back. That's like kind of natural. What happens is when you get like an extended market or an overbought market, but it's like too strong to short, but it's like too long in the tooth to necessarily be clean intraday, you start to get this kind of like herky-jerky action. That almost always happens like when you're like in just an extreme overbought market. One thing is that like individual stocks are still showing up right. So there's kind of two dichotomies that are happening in the market. You know, because the market itself is a little bit long in the tooth, you're not seeing necessarily like those kind of clean pushes from like your regular tech stocks that, you know, you normally would be trading, you know, like your Rokus and stuff. You know, those are going to just kind of pity patter around. So like in your former kind of growth stocks, they're all just like hanging out and doing their own thing, consolidating, you know, for really quite some time. And so the market indexes are, you know, showing, right, that so you get a lot of this large cap tech, they're just not doing anything. And most of the action, what's happening now, is getting centered around more of like the mid cap or small cap names. So like even if the market gets like really long in the tooth, what you're starting to see is, you know, a whole host of just a little bit smaller. I personally don't like trading these kind of smaller names, but if that's what's out there, then that's what's out there. And you know, that's what we trade. It's been a long time since we shredded just like a normal stock. What can you do? But these things are starting. So I wouldn't read too much into the market indexes. Now you want to be a little bit careful. A lot of stocks are long in the tooth. So like there's like things that are going. So like themes that are working right now, like pot stocks. You know, you can't chase this thing up 15% on a gap. Like you could already see like your 9 EMAs at 26 bucks. You know, this thing is opening at $36, $37. Like, you just can't chase that thing up. So, like, a lot of these, if you're going to play anything like that, then what you need to really do is wait for, you know, pullbacks. You got, like, this ACB. This is probably a little bit less extended. So, if you're going to, like, play some pot stocks, and that is a theme right now, then this ACB is, like, a lot less extended. If you add CGC, I got an alert set on this one, like, right at about 45.20. You know, that one could break out today too. So the big thing is to stay away from like really, really extended names and try to like filter down into things that haven't gone. Like, it's just insanity to go in and try to chase something up that's like $10 from its 9 EMA on a gap up, right? So like if it came back crashing down or something and you pulled back into the 30 spot or something, that would be, you know, something that's like an acceptable RR. So you just have to be really mindful. You know, same thing like with this Mara, right? So like this is, you know, these Bitcoin stocks have been hot, but like you can't really chase this up on a gap up today because it's day 2 gap. So like when you get multiple gaps in a row, that's like when you're starting to get like real tricky on these things. So you can see here, like you got multiple gaps in a row now. So you got to let these things kind of like pull back and just do their own thing. You know, if the gap comes back and fills, like how you want to react on these two names, if the gap comes back and fills and you hold over yesterday's highs, then you're in a really good spot. Like, so if you come back and fill this gap and you hold over yesterday's highs somewhere around there and you start to find some footing, then you're in a good spot. So I would add Mara, Riot, and I think the one that's like, you know, still trailing that has not broke out is this BTBT. You know, and this is the same thing. We're going to need these things to come back and fill the gaps on these before you can take them. But they all do look fine to day trade. You can't swing trade these anymore because the moves have already happened. But all three of those are, you know, great for day trades. Let me get rid of some of these gappers from yesterday. Hold on here. I know that the market's like a little bit of a go-go right now, so you want to just be careful you don't get too much of this, the FOMO and stuff. Like there's so many stocks that are running around. It's easy to kind of get caught up in some of the hoopla. Make sure that you're just coming, make sure you're just coming in hot on some of these things at good locations. There's more than enough plays to kind of get you going. Let's take a look at some of the earnings plays. Then we'll go in and see what else is cooking around. CHCI, I haven't heard from this stock in a decade. This thing was, it's been sitting around the $2-3 range. A stock like this is Kumquat? Cum stock? That just sounds dirty, huh? This has got a low enough float that you probably will, at some point will bust this loose. But I'm not chasing this junk at, up over 200%. Same thing, you got this like Calv. This is like a nice, this is like a nice move, and you got probably tiny market caps and breakouts on these things. But you can't really chase these things up like 200%. If they start to pull back aggressively and then remount later, you guys could come in and probably take something. And probably the playbook you want to use on like these kind of biotech stocks that, really push hard. The playbook you really want to do with it is like something on like how Aria was yesterday. So you can see like this Aria, this thing was like sitting at $11, right? You run up to almost $20, so you're up over 100%. Now, it pulls back like fairly orderly. And what happens though is you want to like really let this thing, right? You want to really let this thing build. And once it starts to make out some levels of support here, right? And then you kind of cross back over the VWAP. That's like your telltale kind of low risk entry point where like you might be able to risk say 50 cents and then you can catch like the big runner, right? So if you think about like yesterday in the chat room, like we were, trading this Sava, and it's the same setup. So like, you have like the gap up, and then as it starts to base out under the VWAP and it tightens up, when it breaks over, that's when you want to take it. That'll get you into, some type of play like this without having to have like some monster cock risk on it, where you're just sitting there and just, taking a big kind of goose and a gander on it without, with too much. Because this market, like these kind of plays are working, but we've seen a million markets where like these things just gap up and they die off all day. And that day is always around the corner. Like you can never say like, right now the market is just easy. Something shows up on your scanner, you throw some shit on it, and you make some money. Yeah, like, you trade all day at some point, you'll just catch something. But that's not really trading, like just throwing, right, shit at the wall and then hope something sticks and then you're like, oh, I shredded that. Yeah, sure, that works right now, but it won't always work. So you just have to be a little bit mindful. This AUVI, this is actually a Corona play. I don't know what the news on this bad boy is. It's got a big spread on it, but you see you've got a breakout setting up on this. Like things like Calv and, this AUVI, we can play these. I'll only hit those on that pullback though on this, if we get that kind of setup. Otherwise, leave them alone because you're just not going to you're going to have too much risk on them. Let's see if there's just anything normal that we Perion Network posts higher EPS. That's good. So you got booked adjusted earnings 45 cents over verse 32, which is good. Revenue total 118, up from 78, which is a buenos. You got a fairly probably low market cap on this thing. Frankly, this is the type of stock that like earnings plays is really a good bread and butter. I would actually, if the liquidity stays on this, I would actually add this to the list for potential ORB. You don't want to buy these blindly, right? So you really want to wait either for ORB or quick pullback buy. If you get them, then you're good to go. IPV, that's actually not that bad either. I think we got some better plays out there. Hold on here. Corsair, yeah, Corsair's not bad. Hold on here. And we're going to narrow down the list. I think this should be top of the list for today. You got future. This is the third tap breakout. Now, those little fuckers, see what's happening in this market is everything is just gapping out pre-market before any of us even have our first 2-3 cups of coffee. But you got 1 test, 2 tests, 3 tests of resistance over here. First pull on this stock. If this thing pulls back into 9 EMA, 20 EMA at the open, and it almost always pulls, this is going to be top of the list. The range on this is very nice. If you look at the 14-day ATR, it's at $15, right? So it's already gapped out of its ATR. So you got to have it pull back. But if it does start to pull, like you've got yourself a big breakout here that can like really get some legs, I would definitely keep that on the list. I think that's probably top of the list. If it pulls, SRNE, if this goes red to green today, I think you're going to have yourself a nice shot. If it goes red to green and takes out that 17-ish, you're going to have yourself a nice shot. Kiwi. So this is actually, this kind of stock, this is like probably the stocks that are going to, this type of stock is probably going to be something that gets, pumped up. I don't see any news on this, but what's happening right now is, any stock that's like left on a bottom, you're getting all these kind of like Discord rooms and tweeter people. They're just coming in hot on these things. Anything that's cheap and that's sitting on a bottom, like this only has 100,000 shares in volume in the pre-market. But like probably there's some asshole trading guru that's like sitting there loading shares pre-market, and he's gonna just thrust these things in his subscribers face. So just something to kind of be mindful of when you have something like this. If it it's probably a little bit too thin, so I'd leave that alone. Like you can see this thing APHA, no good. Bingo, Bingo. So Bingo's got an upgrade today. Now, when you get an upgrade on something that's like already like a trending stock, you can see this is like a pretty clean name. You've got a flag breakout on this one that's, frankly, pretty tight. You got the 9 EMA curling up on this thing. If this thing breaks and holds over here, this trend line, like you could see this thing today at $15, $16 relatively quickly. Now, like once again, like I hate trading small cap stocks in general, but this one is going to be clean enough. It does enough volume and it doesn't have like a crazy big range where you could trade it and not just get, totally smoked out. I'd add that to the list, especially if it pulls at the open and starts to kind of build over this 12 spot. We're going to get ourselves a nice chance. Now, let's talk about like just like the regular stocks that don't have anything to do, with some pre-market, right? Just pre-market nastiness. There's a couple stocks that start to walk. This Peloton, if you're, looking at like more larger cap names, is holding at the 50 SMA. It had its earnings out the other day. They weren't highly regarded. It did gap down like 5-6%, but then it reversed at the end of the day. And what's happening is like, with these momentum names, even when they have bad earnings, if they pull back into support, what starts to happen is, some of the bigger players will start to pick this kind of name up, especially because it's just the bad earnings are getting bought up, essentially. I'd watch this thing. If this thing closes over the 50 SMA, like I think you're going to have a chance to like get this thing going again. I don't know who Kathy Wood is, and I don't think you should care who she is either. That just sounds stupid, Andrew. Kathy Wood. Is she a member of our chat room? Now let's talk a little bit about solar stock. Solar stocks. This SPWR is holding up at this 9 EMA. I think this one's going to have a chance. You're starting to see a lot of these things kind of pull back over here. These type of sectors, they don't just die right away. So, if you start to see a little bit of juice on these bad boys, like see how like this thing is just sitting on support. If you start to see a run and at some point they'll start to get picked up, then we'll be good to go. Well, Blink 182's going, huh? Frsx. You know what? This thing it's close. It's getting rejected by the resistance here. I would put an alert around 1037. 1037, if this thing busts loose and you get that 9 EMA curling up, I think this one will take it back into the 11s and you'll probably be good to go. This Yalla should have had earnings out last night. It has a weak opening. So what happens is when these momentum stocks, like see this stock is like a pure momentum stock. This is the Arabic Facebook or Arabic Twitter or some, crap like that. When you get a weak open on some of these Momo stocks, especially post earnings, there's a shot this one goes red to green. We did that on Blink, a couple months ago where it had some news out and it wasn't well received at the open, and then boom, like it goes red to green and gets, taken out. What I mean by red to green is, right, like you can see this thing is down 80 cents on the day, right? So as soon as it's up 1 penny, meaning it completely reverses off, that's your red to green move. That can be, there's a shot that this one does that, right? Keep an eye on that bad boy. We got ACB pot stocks, look okay. I added this PLL for a swing trade. I think this one's actually got a lot of juice. PLL and LAC, these are both lithium plays that frankly, it's a play on batteries, right? It's a play on batteries. It's a play on EV. If you see here, like this one's old breakout was like at 18, but it spent about 2 weeks consolidating over here. It looks like a swinger to me. So like you got up to 28. You've really had a nice base around this 28 area and a little bit of a zone that's been developing here. Yesterday you took it out. Today you've got a weak open on it, which is actually ideal. To me, this looks like a swing trade with maybe a stop under 20 and a target back up into 29. It's got a good location. If you see the volume pattern is pretty good on this. I think this one holds. I added this PLL for swinger yesterday in the 54s. I think this one's also got a chance to maybe get this thing into 60s. That's got a good look to it. You can see here like you're starting to push. What's happening in a hot market, this is what you want to see. Like when you get a big move, if it gets digested quickly, and you could sit and base out for a week or two, I think that you're going to have a good shot to like continue the momentum, but it also lower your risk in such a manner where you don't necessarily have to take a big wide stop loss. Guys, when there's so many stocks like flying around, it's very important that you just wait it out sometimes and find yourself getting, nice locations where your risk is low. This BYND, I'm having a trouble getting a read on it. It had some news out. My man, Brandon, it had some news out and then it completely reversed that day. And it's starting to build out a little bit here. I kind of keep an eye and see like this range it's just been holding. See which way it breaks. It's been getting sold off every day, even with the market so hot. If it starts to take out this kind of 173 zone, you could take a shot at it and put a stop under here. I do believe in this market, there's probably like some hotter names out there. Not that this one's bad, but there's just a few that I think are going to be they're just going to be a little bit easier for you, I guess would be the proper, terminology. I got an alert set on this AI. It's been trailing. I would keep, I think, 155, 156 will be a spot. If we look at a 30-minute chart, really like this 159 is the kind of breakout. But the thing is, like with the location at 151, we can't really chase it up at 159. We'd miss that $8. So what we got to really be doing is, right, we got to really be kind of mindful that if we see the look, we'll have to preempt the breakout and, get in early and then probably double up over 159. MP's a nice stock. I think that this one is also, this is a rare earth metal stock too. I've got an alert set on this one around 34. If it breaks, I think this one becomes a swing trade and it runs into the 40 spot. So that's a really good eye, by the way, whoever just Usman. Very good eye on that. Cool. And then daily traders. OSTK is going to be a daily trader till we get into 130. We got Workhorse here. This is going to be a daily trader. We got a nice kind of multi-day orderly pullback into the 9 EMA. There's a good shot this goes red to green today. Aria on watch for red to green today. And then this SRNE also on watch for red to green today. And then, right, a push over 17 should trigger this thing. I will say that SRNE is the turd of turds in terms of stocks. So this is a day trading type of vehicle that you'll have to, just be super mindful of. I do like the overall look on this, Affirm. I think this one actually might be a swing trade off these kind of dips here. It seems to pull back for 3 days and then rip hard, and then pulls back for 3-4 days and then it rips, and then pulls back for 3-4 days and then it rips. We are getting, closer to where it might start to trend over here. You had a really nice range on this. The range on this was from 106 to 124, so it's got a good range. It does trade a little bit thin, so you got to be kind of careful on the bottom, careful on the locations of these. But let's go back into this. So we have 2 themes that we need to be mindful of today, right? We got pot stocks, the non-extended pot stocks. We want to definitely, and then we have our Bitcoin stocks, right? So our Bitcoin stocks you want to place your trades into buckets. So you get your Bitcoin stocks, that's your Mara, that's your Riot, and your BTBT. The plans on these are only if they pull back, right? Good. Then we got our pot stocks. We want to hit the pot stocks that haven't exploded yet. So you've got your ACB. I know a lot of you guys like the SNDL. That's probably a little bit too thick for me, but yeah, this has a breakout too. I don't like when the stocks have these kind of blocky candles. That indicates usually that they're bad traders. I'll go with ACB. We have SSPK? SSPK is another one that SSPK. There it is. This is another one that hasn't broke out, so I would definitely, I think that one could be a heater. And then you have CGC that hasn't broken. All right? 4520 alert. The next bucket of our trades is going to be the momentum stocks that could go red to green. So you have your SRNE, you have your ARYA, Workhorse, so on and so forth. And then you have your earnings plays. So your earnings plays, news plays, we've got AUVI, we've got BINGO, we've got Calv, and then we've got Luke Perry, the legend. All right? We could do a little CHCI also. It's up a lot and it's going to trade a little bit thin, but it could be very hot. As I said, I don't like trading small caps, so this is, I'll take a little look and see what's going on, but I'm trying not to focus. The VXRT, I already know it's going to look like crap. Downtrend. In hot market, I want the uptrend. But, I'm sure it looks fine. Good. That's a list. I'm sticking to it. Keep an eye on space, sure. There's a million stocks that look okay. What we've got to do is make sure, okay, they look okay, but do they look okay for us? Calv, good. AVI, good. BINGO, BINGO, and bingo was his name. Oh. All right, let's go do what we do, which is the do. Last week was hot. Yesterday was hot. Let's keep it going. We got some good swings. We got some good day trades. Let's make it happen. Let's do this, people.